Hello. So first thing is the first question, and it's about describing the refugees that are presented in the movie. So one thing that they talked about, and I think it was Wasef, he was talking about how all four of them are single men and how that makes them low priority. And he kind of talks about how all of them are put on this like small part of Scotland in like this dreary place to break their spirits and make them want to go back. But besides that, they're all different. So Omar, he's from Syria, I believe. And in the movie, at least like for most of the movie, he seems like very depressed. You can tell he's missing home. And I would say like he's compliant in a sense where like when the car full of like the Scottish teenagers pull up and they're like, are you gonna rape us? Like, are you building bombs in there? He doesn't really fight back. He just stands there and he takes like all this racism and is just like okay and gets in the car with them. So I feel like he's not trying to stir up any trouble. He's very like compliant in a sense where like he's just trying to, be safe and live life without fearing danger. For Farhad, I would say he's like optimistic, he's very inquisitive, he's very curious. He's the one I believe who got the Friends films, and they were like, why did you get Friends and not a coat? And he was basically like, coats are in high demand, like Friends is fun. And then he also was seen talking to Omar outside, just about his life back in Syria. He also made like the joke where like, oh, like in Afghanistan, like aren't women's faces covered? How do you know? And he basically like covered his mouth and was like, haha, like am I smiling? Am I not smiling? So I feel like he's kind of, I don't know how you would describe it, but since so many bad things are happening in his life, he's trying to cheer it up. And then Wasef and Abedi, I think that's how you pronounce their names. I was a little not upset, but I feel like they didn't develop them as separate characters as much as the other characters were. I feel like they were kind of grouped together, even in like the little character thing at the bottom of the weekly thing. They're grouped together. So I wish they were developed a little bit more individually, but besides that, they're more like joking but also realistic, kind of like dark humor. Like they joke about, like one of them says he wants to play football or soccer in England, and the other one was like, well, good thing God made dreams free, which just kind of joking about the situation, but they're also keeping it realistic because I believe they were the ones that brought up that they are low priority. They're not really going to get sent to London, ideally, in that situation. So, yeah. Next, the second one is about the welcome sign of the refugees, and I don't know, it kind of like the way they directed it, I felt like it was really cool, I guess. And then they had that lady like pull up on her scooter and like stare at them, and then once they said hello, she was like ah and zoomed off. So I think it kind of shows how they're welcoming, more like their government's welcoming them in for international like good views, publicity speaking, and like that way. But the people themselves who live there, especially the ones who live on the island, are not welcoming at all. They're very prejudiced and they're very close-minded. And then the instrument, about it being, what was the exact thing was like a coffin for his soul. So Omar's the one who's the musician, and then Farhad was the one who said it's a coffin for his soul. In a sense, I feel like Omar was talking about how the oud, I think you call it, was his grandfather's, and his grandfather was like more of a famous musician back in Syria. However, he's not that famous. He also has a cast on. I think he like broke his arm or his hand or something like that. And that also ties into it because they were talking about, are you going to remember how to play? Can you play after you get your cast off? And I think it also represents like his home. It's the one thing he has from home, the one physical thing he has. So in a sense, the instrument represents his home, himself at home, and it's his one piece that he's able to carry around. But he's kind of Omar is a shell of himself while he's in Scotland. Another thing is he was on the phone with his dad, and his dad was saying like, oh, you should play on the street for some money. And Omar was like kind of shocked, a little taken aback. He's like, you're playing on the street for money? So I think overall, just the overwhelming sense is that it represents his home. It represents him in Syria and his old life, that he's carrying around, because a part of him died when I want to say, in my interpretation, a part of him died when he left and went to Scotland. So it kind of just represents the shell of, or the inside. I feel like the case is the shell of him that he is now, but what's inside the actual instrument is what he used to be when he was in Syria before the conflict started. So thank you.